You alluded to this before, how this division could shape up, and maybe the Guardians are more in the mix than we think they might be right now. On paper, you look at the Twins and you thought, well, they're the clear favorites. Royce Lewis, the worst news of the opening weekend here is Royce Lewis goes down with a quad strain. And at first he said, I thought about staying back in there. I thought it was maybe a cramp. He really kind of made it seem like it wasn't that serious. Unfortunately, we get the injury designation. It's a severe quad strain, and they say probably at least 2 months for a guy that has had 2 ACL tears in his MLB career. Just has not been able to stay on the field. And it really sucks because he was going to be their number 3 hitter this season. And I know it's just baseball. We're as high on Royce Lewis as any outlet. We had him in our top 10 third basemen. We think the world of him, but just devastating for the Twins to lose this guy in the first game there.
Yeah, I think everyone looked at that roster and said, where can they get more? Or who can they get more out of? And Carlos Correa certainly is one of those guys. All right, you want Buxton to be healthy. You kind of know what to expect out of them. But Royce Lewis is that X factor, and you saw what he was able to do somewhat in the postseason last year too, right? So the dude can mesh. There's a reason why he was the first overall pick, but there's also a reason why you have to question, that the Twins, are they going to really be able to hang in there with the loss of arguably the best hitter in their lineup? Maybe doesn't have the best resume because he's still that young and he has been banged up, but when healthy, he is the best hitter in their lineup. So that is a critical blow and a critical loss, probably the biggest in all of baseball this weekend.
And I think it was 2 for 2 in that game too. So it's just, it's such a shame. And now, the question is, who fills in at third base? They called up Austin Martin. They have Willie Castro and Kyle Farmer on the roster as well. But that's really big. We were even talking, do you all of a sudden have buyer's remorse or seller's remorse on dealing Jorge Polanco? Because now there's this gaping hole at third base that is going to be filled with some real unknown commodities.
Yeah, you could have either Polanco shifting over to third or the incumbent second baseman, Edward Julian, moving over to third base. They've got some options. They called him Martin, who was able to make his debut, but he was in center field rather than third base, so that was kind of puzzling. But their top prospect, Brooks Lee, is he's a top 100 prospect, top 50 really. It was selected in the first round, 8th overall in 2022. Has that really good pedigree out of Cal State, San Luis Obispo. So he's another guy that could factor in at that. He played some significant time last year in AAA. So, they've got some options. Again, none as good as Royce Lewis. But it's one of the reasons why you need everybody on your 40-man roster and then some. It's just a shame that Rocco Baldelli's crew has to immediately dip into that depth after losing one of their best players.
Yeah, and even if they can stopgap fill third base to get that top tier production in your lineup, I think to fill that void, it's going to come down to 2 guys that have struggled with consistency, both health and performance, and that is Correa and Buxton. I mean, those guys more than ever have to drive this team. It's great to see Kevin Henry wrote an awesome piece for us at Just Baseball. He was in Kansas City for this series, and he wrote a great piece talking about just the vibes around Buxton in that clubhouse. So he just was exuding just enthusiasm. That he had a huge smile on his face. He's healthy. They were talking about how when he runs out there, it's different. He's playing center field again. That's an awesome story. But if you're counting on Buxton to deal with a guy who just went down because he has a long injury track record, and it's Byron Buxton that you're hoping to be healthy for a 162, that's a tough position to be in as a team here, because we all know it feels like a ticking time bomb. I hate to say it, but that's where we're at with Buxton as well. It's just been a long track record of something always coming up. Maybe this is the year that he actually stays healthy.
Yeah, they're definitely riding a tightrope with Buxton there, and that's rough. You just don't want that. Max Kepler, of course, has been held out the last 2 games because of injury, so they're kind of feeling it early on for a team that is the favorite, but of all of the teams that you might have picked to win the division, Twins were probably number 6, right? I think on the depth chart for a lot of folks, and again, a lot of good battles throughout the various divisions, but you just know, confidence wise, it's more about the Twins than it is about, the second, third, fourth place team in that division. So, they've got a lot to overcome here in their early going with the loss of Lewis.
They do. Hopefully he gets back at the earliest timeline of that 2-month window. But even then, you're looking at this point, what, June is best case scenario, and you're all of a sudden a setback. We might not see him until the second half. So hopefully that does not take him out for much longer than that, but we really don't know.